Hello everyone. Today we're going to go over chapter 7. So some review of your system, bones, support and protect, cartilage, flexible strength, unite bone, and then it cushions together. Ligaments hold the bones together and prevent excessive movements, so you don't have any dislocation or anything like that. Tendons are attached to the muscle attach the muscles to the bones and allow muscle to pull the bones. Okay. Well, there's a lot of different sizes of bones. Today, actually, it's pretty intense, even though it's only 28 slides. I'm not sure if you have this slide, but if not, I will send it to you. Okay. So the axial skeleton are here, and the appendicular skeleton is there. Okay, so axial is pretty much in the middle, and appendicular is attached to the limbs and everything. Okay, so there's a lot of bones to memorize, little details here and there. Okay, all right, here we go. So let's start with the skull. Okay, skull is also called the brain case or the cranial vault. That's where your brain sits. And there are facial bones. Now the mandible right here is the only bone that's freely movable. All these are not movable. And it includes the 3 auditory ossicle, which are the 3 little bones inside the ear, as we will go through them as well. So front of the bone, this is the anterior view. Okay, we see some of these. So supra meaning on top. Supraorbital, orbital is the eye, and the margin. This is the supraorbital margin. Okay, and supraorbital foramen again. Supra is on top, orbital, and the foramen just means a hole. So you find it right there. Okay, supraorbital. Of course, it's bilateral. And infraorbital, where would that be? Infra is under. Okay, infraorbital foramen, under the eye. Okay. Nasal septum is right there. In front of the nasal septum, that's where your vomer bone is. And then there are 3 nasal concha, these guys right there. Okay, there's an inferior, middle, and there's a superior. This will help with moisturizing the air, and then if the air is too cold, it warms it up and things like that. Okay, of course, there's a lot of these we need to know, and in the lab, we're going to go over them as well. But some of the main ones is the zygomatic bone, and here is the maxilla. Okay, the joints that come into the teeth goes in is the alveolar joint, alveolar process, or I don't know if I covered this yet. It's the gomphosis. It's a gomphosis joint which is not movable. Okay, right here between the eyebrows, okay, is the glabella. Okay, right there. Okay, some major bones. There's the frontal, just right here, the frontal. There's a parietal bone right here. Here's that zygomatic arch I told you about, the zygomatic bone. Here's the zygomatic arch. Okay, and on the side, this would be your temporal bone by your ear. Okay, in the back here is your occipital bone. Okay, and every one of you got a little bump there. Okay, if you just right in the back of the head, you feel a little bump. Some right here, some a little bit lower. That's the occiput process. Okay, and here, this triangle bone, if you find your ear, okay, right below it, there's a triangle. Okay, that's your mastoid process. And inside there, right there, you probably will not be able to feel it. It's like a little long, thin bone. Okay, this is a styloid process. Okay, so this big one is the mastoid process, and this small one right in front is the styloid process. Okay, here's your mandible, your maxilla again. Okay, nasal bone. So again, the front side, we have the frontal bone. We have the maxilla. No, maxilla. Okay, this is your mandible, and these are the mental foramen. Mental foramen, and these are your conchas. Okay, this is the inferior, and there's a middle, and there's a superior. Okay. Now inside there, we're gonna look inside there in a minute. Okay. It's a sphenoid bone inside the skull, but I'll show it to you in a different orientation. Okay. Here we have the sutures. Okay, the sutures. Here's the coronal suture, and I'll switch to the other one so you can see better. Here is a squamous suture, squamous, and here is the lambdoidal suture, lambdoidal. Okay, remember this is your frontal bone, parietal, temporal, and occipital. Okay, this triangle thing under the eye, this thing is your mastoid process, and this thing is your styloid process. Now in the mandible, here's the mandible. Again, is the only freely movable bone in the face. Okay, everything is fixed. Zygomatic arch. Okay, zygomatic arch or zygomatic bone. Okay, we saw this as well. The mental foramen. We're gonna look at this later. The coronoid process. Don't confuse this with the coracoid process. Coracoid process is in your scapula. I think we saw that already. Here's the back of the head. Okay, external occipital bone right here, or we can call it the EOP, external occipital protuberance. That's the bony part that's sticking out. Okay, foramen magnum. This view doesn't do justice. Is this hole right there? Foramen magnum. That means foramen is the hole. Magnum is big. Okay, this hole is where your brain and this is where your brain stem comes out. Okay. Again, that's the mastoid process, the triangle one, but under the ear. Parietal bone. One more suture we didn't look at is the one right in the middle, the sagittal suture. Okay. Remember this suture right here? It's the squamous suture. Now here's a sphenoid bone I was telling you about. So here's the cutout of the skull. Here's the front. Here's the back. This bone right here is your sphenoid bone. Okay. It looks like a phoenix. Okay. Now, one of the things here's a better view. This is a side view of that sphenoid bone. Okay. Here is called a sella turcica. Right there. This little thing right there. This little thing right there. That's where your pituitary gland sits. Okay. Your sella turcica. Okay. And you have some sinuses. You have the sphenoid sinus. Here's a side view cut out so you can see. Here's the sphenoid sinus. Here's the frontal sinus. Now, the reasons for the sinuses is to make the bones lighter. Okay. Some of these you really have to touch and feel in the lab, and we will go through them. Okay. Here we have something called the ethmoid bone. This whole thing is the ethmoid bone. If you look at this picture right there, okay. There is that's. Remember, I told you there's a superior and middle nasal concha, which are, you know, these things that when air goes in, it circulates it and moisturizes it. So is right there. So there's inferior, middle, and superior concha. So here's the middle one, and here's the superior one. Okay. Now this right here is called a perpendicular plate. On the side view, you can see it's quite big, and the vomer bone. You see that? We saw it earlier, right there. Okay, that's the vomer bone. That's the perpendicular plate. Okay. Now, this little guy here is called a cristigale. Cristigale. Okay. So just remember those. Here's the maxilla, okay, which is the upper jaw. Okay. There is, let's see, what do we need to remember? Well, this one, these three are not in this view. So the alveolar process are the teeth, you know, the process where the teeth sits in. Maxillary sinus, we saw those in the, let's see. This one, okay. There is the inferior orbital foramen, which is not, you can't see it here, okay. And the sinuses are inside. Palatine is this bone right here, the palatine, okay. This one right here, and here's the vomer bone. We saw that earlier, okay. Remember, this is the zygomatic arch. Okay, zygomatic arch. And that's the foramen magnum we saw. Here's the occipital bone, and the EOP is right there. External occipital protuberance. Oh, some of these is in the lab that you need to remember. Let's see. This is the styloid process. You guys remember the styloid process? And the mastoid process, that big triangular thing, okay, under the under your ear, okay. Couple of things is easier to see here, but it's not as easy to see in the actual bone. But we'll go over it here. This one is the jugular foramen. Okay, carotid canal. Okay, these three are, you know, it's also in the lab. Foramen lacerum,